20 minutes away from 4 o'clock. Good to be with you. I'm Gareth Edwards. Welcome to Today. The Postbank chairperson and 4 other board members have quit. Now, the interesting timing around this, it's amid the Sassa social grant payment debacle. Thousands of pensioners, which we'll unpack in a moment, and other grant beneficiaries have still not received their money. It's due to payment failures by the bank. The board members, meanwhile, are blaming hostility by the Communications and Digital Technologies Minister, Mondli Gongobele.
I know some people might have leaked, some board members might have leaked their responses. What actually happened, is it the day before yesterday? Yes. It is a culmination of an attempt by the minister to intervene in dealing with governance challenges that are in the bank, which the board had to answer for. For whatever reason, board members, knowing the decision that was possibly going to be taken in the AGM today, they opted to preempt that, in my view, and leave. Just to say 1 or 2 examples. One of the fundamental problems has been the continuation of an illegal contract, which was paid no less than 140 million, and without a justifiable explanation why it was allowed to continue. As a matter of record, which I know is transparent, is public, you know, Postbank has had, a disclaimer for no less than 2 years. No serious-minded nation can allow a financial institution to tolerate that. Normally, financial institutions are held in the highest regard.
This is all incredibly messy, isn't it, for those grant recipients? The Social Development Department has provided an update, you saw part of it there, on these delayed payments of the grants from Sassa. Thousands and thousands of people rely on this money and they haven't gotten it yet. It's the very basics to keep food on the table for many of them. The Postbank CEO, as I reported a moment ago, saying they're working on resolving the issues and say they're doing everything that they can to ensure it doesn't happen again, but it seems to happen over and over again. It seems nothing is going to appease the frustrated beneficiaries. They're demanding alternative payment suppliers. We'll get to that. Let's talk about this with the DA's Alexandra joining us, as well as the Black Sash's Gauteng regional manager. It's Thandiwe Zulu. Good afternoon to both of you. Alexandra, may I begin with you first, if we don't mind? I want to quote one of the articles from earlier today. This failure is threatening life. Many would agree. Why does the DA say so?
Well, good afternoon, Gareth, and good afternoon to your viewers. In South Africa, we know that the social grant for many is the sole source of income in a household. A pension, an old age grant or a child support grant, it's not just for the older person or the child, it is supporting the entire household. And when that grant is removed, there's absolutely nothing else coming into that household. So everybody in that household suffers. They don't have access to food. They don't have access to electricity. They just, put yourself in their position. If you do not have any means to have an income, what are you left to do? You are left to then go to loan sharks. And, that exacerbates the entire situation in the household. So yeah, people are extremely suffering. We've been receiving phone calls from across the country of seniors, just in tears, in a state of devastation of not knowing where else to turn.
Thandiwe, let me bring you in on this as well, because as the Black Sash, you're on the ground trying to assist here as well. I don't think many South Africans get a sense when we say grant recipients aren't getting their money, there's no alternative for them. There isn't a loan that they can go into. They can't have the access to credit cards. When they don't get this money, they literally starve.
Exactly. And I think in the morning we did explore this, and I highlighted the importance of this. Of the system, why it is there. I think we don't need to forget that it is the reason for it to be there is as a result of what we are as the country are seeing in terms of poverty and people's inability to maintain themselves. And unfortunately, we can't be politicizing and be academic about this. People are on the ground, have not been paid. Today at the Lenasia post office, there were beneficiaries that were standing out there. Not only, I'm just citing Lenasia, but Vulamehlo in KZN, that have not received their money. And the briefing this afternoon informed the public that people have received the money and minimized the number. And that is not the true reflection of what is going on the ground. Members and members of the public whose livelihood hang on the ground have not been paid.
I want to ask Alexandra, and then I want to ask Thandiwe you this as well. Alexandra, let me come back to you. So the Postbank chairperson, four other board members having quit. How does this help anybody at all? What did you make of them stepping down? I imagine, if anything, this is actually going to delay the process even further. Alexandra?
Yes, well, my colleague who sits on that portfolio has just recently put out a statement speaking to the resignation of the board. And, you know, that just, to me, it's a back and forth trying to save face between the minister and the board. You know, they've resigned and we still don't have any clear, concrete response as to what exactly is going on at the entity and the reasons. I mean, we saw at the press conference, Minister Gumgubele very arrogantly, dismissing the resignations, saying that they were, preparing to get rid of them, and that's why the resignation came. But I think we also need to remember that the Postbank, with who Sassa now has an SLA agreement with, it is a failing, bankrupt entity. The writing was on the wall already that they are not going to be able to administer the grant. In the same situation that we found ourselves in with the Postbank, which is also an SOE that has failed, that we entered into an SLA with Sassa with, that cannot pay the grant. So the question then becomes, is who's next? There's no other entity at government level who can confidently and reliably pay this grant. And I think it's really arrogant then of the minister to still be, going on that, we're going to have a Postbank when they can't even get these two SOEs off the ground to pay the grant.
Yeah, and Alexandra making a good point there, Thandiwe. It's exactly what I wanted to ask you. So the DA calling for the use of private banks, exactly to Alexandra's point that right now it's not working. Thandiwe, what would you think of that as Black Sash? Maybe move it away from the post office and Postbank. There's perfectly good private banks that can do this and handle millions of accounts every day. You agree with the DA or disagree?
We have always stood. That is why, as the Black Sash, we had to fight for what we call the SDA card, the Sassa card, because in terms of what is taking place in the banks and all that, the beneficiaries would be charged the bank charges, unless if the business sector, your banks come to the party in terms of their social responsibility and absorbing absorbing the cost in terms of the grant themselves, where the grant beneficiary, when they go to a bank, then they are able to draw their money without any cost that would be apportioned to them. And I mean, I want to re-emphasize and keep on going back to the fact that these are vulnerable individuals who rely on the social assistance in terms of their livelihood. So if we now diverting them to the banks who are charging a bank fees, what are we then saying? Unless for us, if the banks are coming to the party and saying for the grant beneficiaries, we would not charge, and until that particular individual has withdrawn like an amount equal to their grant, they won't be charged any bank charges. Then that would be one alternative to look at. But I think it's important that all stakeholders come to the party now. We cannot have companies or banks or even retailers that would profit out of the poor, all in the name of
this to be moved to the private banks. But you agree, I saw you nodding off air, Alexandra. I suppose it's a good point. When you look at what grant beneficiaries earn each month, you really don't want to be hitting them with bank charges. I suppose that's fair, Alex, isn't it?
Well, it is fair. That's why we yesterday in our portfolio committee meeting, I did ask the chairperson. It's about time we invite the BASA and the financial institutions to our social development committee meeting to hear from them directly what further role they can play. Because the alternative here is we've been hearing payment glitches and technical glitches and hacking attempts for the better part of the year. I think this is about the fourth or the fifth time we've heard the same excuse, and I have no confidence in that it's resolved. I suspect we'll hear the same excuse a few more times still, and then our seniors and our vulnerable persons are left in the same situation again. So yes, I have asked the chairperson that we ask them, the Banking Association, to come to our committee to hear how they can better assist, because at the end of the day, this is elder abuse. It's infringing on people's constitutional rights, and it's going to take the whole of society to actually work together so we can come out on the other end. And just to add, I mean, as a country, we're in such the difficult economic situation. The administration of the social grant by government costs a lot of money. It's millions or millions to actually administer the grant. So if there is another avenue where the private sector can come in and actually do it at a much affordable cost, it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Yeah, it's a complicated process, but I take the point as well. It's not like you're unaware. There's nuts and bolts of the situation. Excuse me, Alexandra and Thandiwe, as I cough in your ear. Apologies for that. And Thandiwe, let me just say goodbye to both of you, but I'm going to leave each of you with a last word if I can. So now we've heard back at technical glitches. We're hearing there was an update to the system. It's not good enough. Many companies update online servers and online banking systems. They don't crash. Thandiwe, very briefly, how do you want to see this play out going forward? Alexandra is saying we're going to see this happen again. I imagine you share that sentiment, but what would you like to see change as of today so this doesn't happen next month?
It is so unfortunate that out of this press conference, really our colleagues did not come to the party with regards to the plan. In actual fact, we felt disappointed that it seems, especially from the CEO, Postbank CEO, who said, look, glitches do happen. And I said, we have been having these glitches, and it seemed as though it's being directed to us as the public and the beneficiaries that we should normalize an abnormal situation. By her saying that glitches will always be there, it didn't bring any confidence in terms of what plan is there to mitigate against the situation that we are faced with. And we are not only talking a minimal number of people, we're talking millions of people who it means they will be always subjected to these glitches. They will always be in a position where they are not able to carry on with dignity and live their lives. So it was a bit disappointing, and not even a bit, it was hugely disappointing to be hearing the utterances of having to normalize something that we cannot normalize, something that we cannot compromise, given the fact that it is a constitutional right.
That's exactly what I was about to remind everyone. This is a constitutional right, and it's a human right as well. The DA's Alexandra Abrams. Thank you, Alexandra. I ran out of time to come back to you, but I appreciate your time. Also, the Black Sash's Gauteng Regional Manager, Thandiwe Zulu, joining us as we head up to 4 minutes away from 4 o'clock on today. Good to have you with us. I'm Gareth Edwards. We're going back to Ulundi as we continue our build-up to the official burial of the late Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi in a few minutes from now here on eNCA.